To create a pattern on our paper, we're going to need to break this actual picture down, our paper plane area, which is right at 12 inches. We need to break this down into areas of 3-inch squares. We're going to have a repeated pattern over and over again. So very lightly with my pencil, I'm going to come across here and make my marks every 3 inches. I'm also going to do the same thing near the bottom here because we're going to connect these together. Since we don't have a T-square, to make sure everything is lined up perfectly, as long as I measure on top and bottom, I can then come along and connect these. And again, very lightly with pencil. Since we're doing this with watercolor, see very faintly, the less pencil line we have shining through, the better. So we need it as a guide, but not necessarily deep, heavy. We don't need it to be like engraved into the surface by any means. So I'm going to take care of this side, and then I will repeat this on the other side. So I'll flip this around, and we'll do this again. So every 3 inches, 3, 6, 9, and at the bottom, 3, 6, 9. Something to be aware of with your ruler is making sure that the end of the ruler is not the beginning of the ruler. All rulers are different. These that you've been given to work with, there is about 1/8 of an inch, and you'll see a starting point, okay? So make sure you put that on the edge of your paper, not the edge of the ruler, okay? Otherwise, it'll kind of change things up a little bit on you. It might give you an area that's a little bit wonky or bigger on one end than another. Okay, now that I have this lightly set up, okay, another thing too is always remember to put your name on the back side of the paper, all right, so we know who it belongs to. The next phase is we need to create some kind of a motif, a design that we're going to repeat. Now, here are some of the parameters for this. To make it kind of alternate and have a little fun with creating it, it is helpful to have your design touch all 4 portions of the corners. This is just one big, gigantic shape that touches all 4 corners. So, start from a corner. So, I'm going to be crazy. You can use curvy line, you can use zigzag lines. I'm going to maybe use a combination kind of a deal here. So I'm going to say I'm going to come in about 1/2 an inch. I'm going to make a little tick here, and I want to come in a little bit over here, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. I'm going to make a little tick mark. And if I come in, if this is the starting point on all of my corners, then no matter how I rotate my crazy motif, they'll meet up. I'll show you what I mean here in just a moment. Let me make my little marks here on all 4 of my little corners. I'm going to come in, and you can come in 1/2 an inch, you can come in 1/4 of an inch, it's up to you, but let me show you what I mean here. It'll become a little bit clearer, because this is going to be something in which we rotate. Okay, and if everything connects and rotates and touches off at the same measurement, it kind of creates a really cool effect. So here's where I'm going to go from my little 1/2 inch mark, and I'm going to create a squiggly line. Woohoo! Okay, this is what I consider my negative space. I'm going to cut that out in a little bit. All right, I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to maybe use a ruler. Let's use a ruler this time. I'm going to come down and over, and I'm going to do a crazy diagonal. There we go. That was crazy. All right, now I'm going to come back over here, and maybe I'll do another diagonal. I'll come in just a little bit here. Again, each time I'm starting with that little 1/2 inch tick mark, and I'm going to go maybe up and over here. So for any of my straight lines, I'm really kind of making these with rulers so that they're nice and squared off. And then I'm gonna do a little, oh, got him a little too. See how I touched those two together? See, that little piece is gonna fall off on me. So I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna undo that craziness a little bit here. All right, so all of these negative spaces that are here in between all of my little tick marks, those are things that I'm going to remove. You'll need a pair of scissors for this. So now, this is my crazy shape, but I'm going to cut out my negative spaces. This is gonna make my design, or what we call a motif. A motif is an element or a unit that repeats over and over again. Say you had like a tie that has SpongeBob on it. SpongeBob would be your motif, and when you repeat SpongeBob all over your tie in some kind of a repetitious way, you make a pattern, and all of a sudden you have a patterned SpongeBob tie, right? So carefully cut in here. And again, this is from a 3" by 3" square, because that's gonna be what is gonna be fitting in our 3" by 3" square grid that we just drew. All right, so cutting my squigglies now. It doesn't have to be perfect and exact, you know, as long as you got a squiggly pattern or a straight line that you really like. Okay, get my paper out of the way so I don't tear anything here. And again, like I said, I'm stopping at all those little 1/2" marks there. All right, this one's really meandering. This is testing my cutting skills. Woo. I think I cut in a little bit too far on that one. But that's okay. This is a free form side. Ooh. Boy, I made this tough on myself, didn't I? Oop. Okay, so let me get rid of all of my pieces and parts. So here is my crazy shape. It goes a little bit everywhere. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna decide which end is up. And let me just show you, I have another one that I created earlier. Here, let's get rid of the pencil lines over there so you can kind of see a little better. I made one earlier and I didn't take quite as much off, right? See, I really took a whole bunch off of this one, but I made little bitty tiny niches in on this one. So I'm gonna make sure that, okay, we'll say this is always the top side, okay? So now I'm gonna come back to my paper and I'm going to, let's start over here. I'm gonna lay him down in the corner. See, corner, 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 and he's facing up. This is the top of my paper up here. So I'm gonna come along here and I'm going to begin to trace lightly. Again, no need to push really hard, but I'm gonna trace around this little crazy shape lightly with my pencil. And get the top part. Oh, come on, buddy. I lost my curve. There we go. So he's transferred the first time, okay? He's going upwards, right? So the first one, he's facing upright. Now watch this. Instead of facing up, I'm gonna have him facing to the right now. I turned him by what we call 1/4 turn. And I'm gonna keep this going. I'm gonna keep going here. So we're gonna keep tracing him, but each time you're gonna rotate it 1/4 step. Okay, So there he is again. He's transferred by a quarter. Can you see how these guys met up? Because I did the little tick mark in the corner. These were pretty close. I might erase this line ever so lightly and kind of make it meet a little bit better there. See how they're meeting there? Okay, so we went this direction. Now, look at me. I'm going to hold this one little corner and whoop, it kind of looks like a frog. I'm going to keep transferring over here. And see how this just kind of keeps going and going and going. And we're going to do this till we fill up the whole kit and caboodle with all of these different turns of our singular crazy shape. Okay, now say we work our way all the way across and we turn this one this way, okay? I'm going to come back over here and I'm like, okay, so I started up, right? So this time I'm going to start facing this direction. And then I'm going to keep going here, and then here, and then here. All right. And if he started like this, then I'm going to rotate this, and then we'll keep going. You kind of get the pattern here? Yeah. So it's going to change by a quarter turn this direction, and every time you start. Okay, until you're all filled with the hokey pokey. All right, and you got all these turned all around. Ta-da! All right, so now our next video is going to talk about how we're going to paint all these.